A man sold every car he loved to fund a Bugatti sitting in two pieces inside a cold workshop, and the gearbox that destroyed the car's value carried a replacement quote higher than most people earn across an entire decade. Mark McCann's story isn't about reckless spending or ego-driven gambling. It's about what obsession looks like when it meets an impossible situation directly, and what a person chooses when every rational signal says, walk away, but the honest answer refuses to agree. Mark had been hunting a Bugatti Veyron for months, and hunting is the accurate description. Not browsing, not saving links to visit later, but genuinely hunting the way collectors do when a specific car has taken complete hold of them. Every Veyron that appeared anywhere across the United Kingdom, he had already studied. He knew which cars had been resprayed and why, which ones carried crash records buried beneath clean recent photography, which sellers were being honest, and which ones were performing confidence while hiding something uncomfortable in the history or the specification. The search consumed his evenings, his weekends, and the quiet hours most people fill with something that costs less effort. Every time a genuinely clean supercar surfaced with the right history, it was gone before he could arrange a proper viewing. That's how the collector car market operates at this level. The cars worth having move fast, often privately between people who already know each other, and the buyers doing the most thorough research always seem to arrive half a step too late. What remained listed were the wrong cars, wrong specifications, wrong histories, the ones that smelled off the moment someone started pressing for answers to questions sellers never volunteer on their own. The frustration built quietly across those months, not the explosive kind, but the slower accumulation that comes when every lead turns out to have already been resolved by the time you reach it. Months of near misses produce a particular kind of exhaustion that outright failure doesn't. The dream doesn't die, but it starts feeling less like a destination and more like a direction you keep moving toward without actually getting any closer. And then his friend Ali called with something different. Off-market, a Mansory Veyron, one of the rarest specification Bugattis in existence, and described as cheap. In the automotive world at this collector level, cheap and rare sitting together in the same sentence should trigger every warning simultaneously. A Mansory Veyron carries a real market value between £1.5 and £2.5 million. Mansory, the German automotive tuning company that takes already extreme machines and pushes them harder in every measurable direction, built some of the most aggressive Veyron variants ever produced, and a car with that specification appearing on the open market at all is unusual enough without the price being the very first thing mentioned. Cheap always means something catastrophic happened. Mark understood this with complete clarity. He had spent enough time around high-performance vehicles to know that prices don't collapse without a serious reason hiding somewhere beneath what's visible. But the obsession had been running without a result for months, and this call carried a weight the others hadn't. He needed to know the exact worst-case figure before making any informed decision, and that meant going to the one place with the authority to give him a manufacturer-level answer. He booked a private appointment at Bugatti Manchester, the official dealership, and arrived wearing a full black suit with conspicuously loud shoes, reportedly drawing a pause from the staff when he walked in, a man dressed as though attending his own financial execution. The question was simple. How much to replace a Bugatti Veyron gearbox? £300,000 came back immediately, and not at Manchester, only at Bugatti's specialist facility in London where trained engineers handle these components under strict manufacturer protocols. Alongside that official dealership number, Mark had already started calculating whether an independent specialist with a different approach might change the equation entirely. To understand why that number exists, you have to understand what the Veyron's transmission actually is. A 7-speed dual-clutch transmission engineered by Ricardo Engineering for the Volkswagen Group, built to handle over 1,000 horsepower and 1,250 newton-meters of torque while executing changes in milliseconds at speeds exceeding 400 kilometers per hour. At those mechanical loads, a failure doesn't mean a breakdown on the road. It means immediate total destruction across multiple interconnected systems. £300,000 settled into Mark's thinking as the worst-case ceiling, a number now with a face and a verified source behind it. Fonger Cars entered the calculation and shifted everything. Their reputation in the independent hypercar specialist world isn't built through marketing. It's earned entirely by taking the jobs that official channels turn away. They've rebuilt crashed Veyrons, resolved electrical catastrophes in Paganis, and handled machinery that most workshops won't allow through the door. Mark asked the same question he had asked Bugatti. Could the car be rebuilt? The answer wasn't straightforward, but it wasn't no. Unless the gearbox casing held structural damage beyond any viable recovery, a full rebuild was achievable given time and the right precision. That answer moved the situation from catastrophe to calculated risk, and those are genuinely different problems to be solving. Walking into the workshop for the first time, Mark expected damage. What he found stopped him mid-step. The Mansory Veyron hadn't merely been broken. It had been physically separated into two halves, like a mechanical anatomy exhibit that nobody had bothered cleaning up afterward. The gearbox was absent entirely, leaving a hollow void where the drivetrain had once connected the engine's output to the wheels. The quad-turbo W16 engine sat exposed to open air, disconnected from everything that had once given it a function. Carbon fiber body panels worth more than most homes lay scattered across the floor, dulled and scratched from 3 years without any attention. The Mansory-specific bodywork, already rare on any Veyron and never fully replicated anywhere outside the original build, had suffered those same 3 years without protection or maintenance. Inside the cabin, leather crafted by hand over weeks had cracked and dried completely. Rubber seals had perished. Dust had settled into every seam and stayed there. This wasn't storage. It was abandonment with a paper trail attached. The Fonger inspection then revealed the detail that reframed the entire story. The previous workshop had documented that the clutch packs were replaced, properly repaired, and signed off. Metal fragments found throughout the gearbox casing said otherwise. In any transmission, debris of that kind doesn't sit still. It circulates through the system, destroys gear engagement progressively, and accelerates internal damage silently every time the car moves. Whoever worked on it before had performed the appearance of a repair and walked away from the reality of it. Fonger's team had already begun actual recovery work, with gear clusters cleaned and partially rebuilt, hydraulic components staged for assembly, and critical machining completed with the precision these components demand. The foundation of a real rebuild existed, barely, but it was there. The deal settled at £900,000, reached from $850,000 on Mark's side and $1 million from the seller, the figure between them ending the silence and closing the contract. The money transferred, the car was his, split in two, gearbox missing, and future entirely unresolved. The funds came from his collection, one car at a time. The Honda NSX went first. A car that demonstrated Japanese automotive engineering could stand directly next to Ferrari and hold every comparison comfortably. Then the M3, years of accumulated memories attached to every mile, handed off to a new owner in a single afternoon. The Ford RS200 followed, a Group B rally car and one of the rarest motorsport-derived road vehicles ever built, one that Mark had stated repeatedly and publicly he would never sell under any circumstances. He signed the paperwork anyway. The Audi S1 rally car closed out the sales, and every handshake over every transaction carried its own particular and genuine weight. He kept signing because each car sold was a step closer to something he had decided could become extraordinary. Each sale a kind of promise that the rarer thing would justify what the other things cost to obtain it. United Worldwide Logistics transported the two-piece Veyron to Fonger's workshop, fully insured through the journey despite the vehicle's fragmented condition, and the real rebuild work could finally begin in a controlled environment. Mark brought his partner Jane to see it shortly after, and she had previously only seen photographs from when the car was whole and imposing. Two disconnected halves greeted her instead, dust covering every surface, structure visible where panels should have been, and complete silence where a W16 should have been running. She stood without words. Mark visits the workshop almost every day now. The parts search runs in parallel with the mechanical rebuild, and in Bugatti's supply chain, a single bolt can cost hundreds of pounds, while availability regularly forces independent specialists into collector networks, salvage contacts, and channels that appear in no official catalog. A wrong seal or a missing clip can stall progress by weeks. This rebuild also connects to a wider story in the automotive content creator world. Linked to the project, Matt Armstrong has been documenting on a crashed Bugatti Veyron that the manufacturer's own engineers examined and declared a complete write-off. Armstrong, whose YouTube channel built its entire reputation on rebuilding vehicles everyone else abandoned, looked at that same wreck and started work. Millions of viewers have been tracking that project through online video, and the same network of independent specialists, the same parts pipeline, the same refusal to accept the manufacturer's official conclusion is now running on Mark's car as well. 900,000 pounds, a Mansory Veyron separated into two halves, and a collection of cars sold off one by one to make it happen. Whether that machine ever fires up again remains a question without an answer. The workshop lights stay on, the work continues every day, and one man's decision to refuse the easy answer is still playing out under cold fluorescent lights somewhere in the United Kingdom.